Welcome to FiceFilm. Today we'll explain the action film XMenApocalypse. Warning, this video contains spoilers. Enjoy. The movie starts in Egypt millions of years ago where the masses are reciting the name of an entity known as En-Sabah-Nur, which is Egyptian for apocalypse. His four horsemen bring him inside his pyramid. They are putting En-Sabah-Nur's essence into her predecessor's body. To slay En-Sabah-Nur, the locals outdoors sent enormous pillars into the pyramid. In response, their horsemen battle the Egyptians. Before being crushed, a horseman is able to surround the successor with protection. En-Sabah-Nur is left buried beneath the debris after the process commences. The story forwards to Ohio in 1983. In a classroom, students discuss what transpired when a mutant raven stopped Magneto from attacking a Paris peace conference. Scott Summers, one of the students, grumbles about his eye pains. A student sees it as a wink toward his girlfriend. Scott was sent to the principal, but he goes to the restroom instead. The jealous classmate followed, making threats to hit him. The child is thrown into the wall as Scott accidentally fires a blast through his eyes. In the meantime, a crowd has assembled in Berlin to covertly watch the mutant Angel battle another mutant. After slaying him, Angel prepares for another opponent, Nightcrawler, who can teleport as far as he can see. A little while later, Raven entered and electrocuted the cage. Angel's wings are scorched as Nightcrawler knocked him onto the cage. The Nightcrawler flees. Meanwhile, Henrik, Magneto's new identity, now resides there in Poland. He has a wife named Magda and a daughter named Nina. Magneto reads Nina a children's story he learned from his folks. Nina asks about Magneto's parents, so he said how they were separated from him. With Gosh concealing his eyes, Scott's brother Havoc transports him to Xavier's school for gifted children. Scott runs into Jean Grey, a psychic mutant, before running into his teacher Beast. Havoc takes Scott to Charles Xavier's office. Scott takes off his bandages, but he damages a tree that Charles's grandfather planted. However, Charles is so thrilled that he enrolled Scott immediately. On the other hand, an archaeologist discovers a subterranean corridor that leads to En-Sabah-Nur's resting place in Egypt. His disciples sang chants reviving him as the apocalypse. While the followers are destroyed in a blast, Moira, the archaeologist, escapes. The earthquake it caused can be felt all the way in Europe, including Magneto's workplace, where molten metal almost crushes a guy who Magneto rescued. Back at school, the children feel weird. Jean is shivering when Charles enters her room. Charles probes her mind, finding that she has images of devastations, which Jean claims to be the end of the world. Charles comforted her, despite her fear of her abilities. Meanwhile, a woman named Storm summons a sandstorm in Egypt just to rob two men. Apocalypse observes the men pursuing her. Apocalypse pursues the men instead and throws sand to behead them while trapping the remaining men. Magneto, meanwhile, informs Magda that they must move to a different location. When Nina is called for, she isn't in her bedroom. Magda and Magneto went to the woods where several officers are detaining Nina. They question Magneto about his past behaviors. After Magneto acknowledges them, Nina is let go. However, Nina yells at the men as Magneto claims the officers. The bird starts attacking the officers as summoned by her voice. She was a mutant. One of the officers unintentionally shot his bow, impaling Nina and Magda. Magneto sobs as he runs to them. He removes Nina's necklace and then executes all the men. To find out more about the quake, Charles and Beast track down Moira in Egypt. After that, Charles and Havoc travel to the CIA to see Moira. Despite the fact that Charles erased her memory, she still recognizes him. Moira was researching En-Sabah-Nur's history, going into depth about his followers and how he planned to empower them to help him destroy whatever they desired. In Egypt, Storm brings Apocalypse home. She has a portrait of her hero, Raven. In order to stay current with news, Apocalypse puts his hand on the television. He decides that humankind has lost its way and that the world needs to be purified. He put his hand on Storm, boosting her abilities. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler went to school. He meets Scott, Jean, and Jubilee. They make the choice to wander around the mall. At the same time, Apocalypse and Storm visit Caliban's facility to research for mutants. Caliban prepares to fire his guns towards Apocalypse, but he destroys it. As they approach, Psylocke, a mutant armed with psychic katana, defends Caliban. Apocalypse grants her more power after being impressed. Apocalypse is then led to their newest recruit. Angel was drinking in an abandoned building and was obviously not the warrior he once was. Apocalypse transformed his wings into bladed feathers. Somewhere, Quicksilver is listening to a new piece about Magneto. While his mother walks downstairs, he immediately played video games. She is aware of what he was actually watching. Meanwhile, Magneto refers to the facility to confront his employees about snitching. Until Apocalypse, Storm, Psylocke, and Angel appear. He was about to murder them. Apocalypse transports Magneto to Auschwitz, the locations of his first use of powers. He was encouraged to control metals and to use fury as fuel. As Apocalypse swears to create a better world, Eric starts to smash the structures around him. To find Magneto, Charles takes some mutants to Cerebro. Charles comes across joining Apocalypse. Apocalypse connects Magneto's mind to Charles's when he converses with Charles, enabling Magneto to enter Cerebro and communicate with anyone. To ensure that nobody will stop him, Apocalypse controlled officials into launching all nuclear weapons into orbit. Charles commands Havoc to eliminate Cerebro. Moments later, Apocalypse and the Horsemen arrive. Charles was taken by Magneto. Havoc then caused a huge blast. Quicksilver arrives outside just in time to perform a power rush through the school and get everyone out. Scott learns that he was unable to save Havoc just as he arrives back. An aircraft suddenly descends. Moira approaches, believing they are allies, but William Stryker, the leader, emerges. Everyone except some mutants was knocked out by a premeditated explosion. Through her abilities, Jean keeps her group concealed, while Nightcrawler teleports himself, Scott, and Jean into the helicopter. Meanwhile, Stryker catches some mutants. Everyone is taken to Stryker's facility, where they are trapped. While sneaking in, Scott, Jean, and Nightcrawler manage to teleport after being noticed. Apocalypse also transmits a warning to humanity after transporting Charles to his former residence, but Charles is able to communicate a secret message to Jean. Meanwhile, Quicksilver tells Raven in a cell that Magneto is his real father. Scott, Jean, and Nightcrawler stumble onto a cellar where something in prison is grumbling. Jean opens it as the troop arrive and lets Weapon X, aka Wolverine, loose. He pulls forth his claws and massacres all the guards. Wolverine is stopped by Jean, who releases him from brainwashing. She returns him to the memories she was able to access. Wolverine withdraws. When the three reach the cell, they free the prisoners. After having Magneto manipulate the post to cause havoc, Apocalypse recreates his pyramid. Apocalypse wishes to take over Charles's body and take control of everyone. To save Charles, Moira and the mutant take off for Cairo. The group arrives, the mutants get ready for combat. As they approach Magneto, Raven reassures him that he has family in an effort to persuade him to struggle for the innocent. Quicksilver keeps his connections with Magneto a secret. Meanwhile, Scott avoids the lightning that Storm is hurling his way. Psylocke fights Beast with her blades. Angel challenges Nightcrawler to a rematch. Angel is captured by Nightcrawler, who then goes inside the pyramid to rescue Charles. Angel and Psylocke manage to get to the heroes as they are returning to their jet. As the jet falls, Nightcrawler saves everyone, killing Angel as Psylocke escapes. Despite Quicksilver's super speed, Apocalypse caught him, but Quicksilver locks him and damages his leg. He commands Psylocke to kill him, but she slashes Apocalypse with her katana. When he snatches her, Raven emerges in disguise. Storm merely witnesses as Apocalypse murders her hero. Charles chooses to engage in combat after realizing he is still linked to Apocalypse. Although Charles has the advantage, Apocalypse crushes him. Magneto attacks Apocalypse after deciding who to support. Jean is persuaded to support Charles. She releases the peak of her abilities. Apocalypse tries to flee, but Storm stops him with her lightning. Apocalypse's physical form dissolves. The group leaves for home. Jean and Magneto assist in renovating the school. Storm and Quicksilver stay. Quicksilver chooses to conceal his secret. Magneto declines Charles's request for him to stay after being asked. Charles then follows Raven, who is ready to begin training Scott, Jean, Storm, Quicksilver, and Nightcrawler to become X-Men. That's everything that happened in XMenApocalypse. Which part of the movie did you enjoy the most? Share it with us in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ping the notification button for continuous updates. See you in our next video.